Bully Resistance Show is brought to you by Nathan Alfred Insurance, an independent insurance agency located in Vienna, West Virginia. They specialize in auto, home, life, and business insurance. What makes this agency unique is the ability to shop the market for you. The Bully Resistance Show is also brought to you by Berkshire Hathaway Home Services Real Estate Center as a part of their community outreach. They truly believe that selling houses is important, but helping make our community a better place to live is even more important. The Bully Resistance Show is also brought to you by Valley Chapel United Methodist Church and United Methodist Church located in Fairmont, West Virginia, worshiping, praying, and living the Word of God as a family. Also want to thank Bobby and Michelle Jones, Jeff Belt, Pamela Sayre, Rick Modisett, Connie Pample, Jerry and Karen Gartrell, Crossroads Church. You can help us fight bullying in the public schools and help support the Bully Resistance Show with David Wells. For more information, go to www.davebond.org. That's www.davebond.org.
Welcome, everyone, to the Bully Resistance Show with David Wells, nationally known smooth jazz artist, CEO and co-founder of the Chocolate Jazz Foundation, and the co-host of a 2-hour syndicated radio program called Chocolate Jazz Radio. Bully Resistance is a weekly 1-hour show that's a motivational, informative, and inspirational program. We will have interviews with musicians, actors, government officials, politicians, psychologists, counselors, and just average day citizens. Of course, the topics will include making right choices, never giving up desire, discipline, determination, bullying in public schools, the workplace, and in your community, bully resistance and prevention, self-defense, jiu-jitsu, and current affairs, and much, much more. And if you're ready, we are. Here's your host, David Wells.
I want to thank everyone for tuning in to another episode of the Bully Resistance Show with David Wells. My name is David Wells, and today we have a special guest that has actually graduated from Bowling Green State University and has been in the field of education for over 30 years. Also, after teaching 3rd and 4th grade for 25 years, she actually moved up to an assistant principal of Horizon Science Academy East in Dayton, Ohio. She's also a wife and a mother of 2 grown sons, whom she is very proud of course. And one of the reasons why I'm excited to have her on the show is because she's actually in the school system now, and she is the principal, and she's updated pretty much with everything pertaining to school, the good and the bad, and also she is in a larger city, which just gives us a different perspective about bullying. So at this time, I want to introduce Marla Sparks on the Bully Resistance Show. Marla, thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
You know, I would have to say the first time I actually met you, it was when I did a concert where you go to church. I think, is it near Dayton, Ohio?
Yes, about 20 minutes from Dayton.
Okay. And which was about, I think it was about a month or 2 ago, and which, by the way, was a horrific experience for both of us. And but, you know, we try to forget those moments, you know. But what's good about it all is that he's going to actually have it back in October. And I guess I'll be doing a couple assemblies in your area. That's true. Is that true?
October is anti-bullying month.
Okay. Well, I'm excited about that. Well, before we go on any further, you know, let me mention this to you. When I was going to school, I don't remember bullying like it is today. I mean, I really never heard the word bullying when I was growing up. I don't remember hearing about the shootings and that took place in the public schools. I don't recall, you know, hearing about kids committing suicide like they are today. Just shootings alone in the public schools since November of last year, there was close to 40 deaths and 64 injuries from school shootings since November, which is maybe about 5 months ago.
Right.
My question to you is this: when you were in school, do you remember bullying and suicides and shootings like it is today?
Absolutely not. I was in high school in the late 70s, lived in a little farming community. The thought of someone bringing a gun to school and shooting me never entered my mind. We didn't have school shootings. I'm sure there was bullying, but I wasn't really aware of it. Kids got made fun of, like they have forever,
Right.
but nothing real serious. No, I don't remember any suicides as far as the time that I was in high school.
You know, it's funny as I travel around, and since I've been doing the podcast, I just sort of been just talking to parents more so than I used to about bullying in their area. And I was actually in a county where Canton, Ohio is, and I'm not for sure if you've know anything about this, but I think it's Perrysville High School or Perrysburg High School. Anyway, since school has started, there has been a total of 8 deaths in that high school.
Wow.
And from suicides to overdoses. And it's just one of those things that, like, I just, I'm just baffled the way that things are going. Here's something that's interesting. There's a lady by the name of, what's her name? Catherine Newman. She is like the co-author of Rampage, and it's called The Social Roots of School Shootings. And there was actually a study by one of the Sciences of Johns Hopkins. Anyway, it was studies about rampage shootings, and what was interesting is that they're finding out that the shootings that take place are either in small towns in the middle of nowhere, or an exurb, which is, if you're not, if the audience is not familiar with the word exurb, which is spelled EXURB, it's a district outside a city, especially a wealthy area beyond the suburbs. But anyway, but the shootings are not in big cities, and but when you're in a small town, the one institution that really is visible throughout the entire community is the school. And you can sort of imagine, since we're both musicians, it's like a stage setting, and it's where the person can reverse all the negative baggage they carry, and they can be seen as an anti-hero to be feared rather than a loser to be rejected. You know, and but in regards to the mass shootings, what would you implement to fight against mass shootings in public schools? If you had all the means, all the finances, and they say do what you think will help reduce the mass shootings, what would you do?
Well, probably several things. Metal detectors at the doors, armed guards for each floor of the building, security cameras everywhere. Let me think. Probably doors that couldn't be forced open if they had some kind of wedge or something to keep the door from being forced open. Bullet-resistant glass. I could think of a lot of things. Yeah.
Okay. So let me ask you this. So if finances, you don't have any finances, what would you suggest? I mean, how creative can you be to reduce the shootings? Would it be allowing or training a couple of your teachers to shoot and carry, or is it to or something else?
Well, I work in a K-8 building, so having armed teachers around 5, 6, 7, 8-year-olds is kind of alarming to me. But then, on the other hand, at the high school level, there's the fear that the kid might grab the gun and turn it on you. I'm not real thrilled about that idea. I understand the concern and why people are doing it. I personally would not be comfortable with it.
Where I live, it's in the city, in Wood County itself, I think it's maybe about, I don't know, man, maybe 80,000 people. And we have what you call soft cops, and what they are, they're actually either members of the law enforcement, either they're retired police officers, and their jobs involve just hanging around the schools and just getting to know the kids and building the trust. And it seems like it's doing good, because what happens is that when the kids have a trust with these soft cops, they feel like they can go ahead and tell them, listen, I heard about this one person, and you know what I mean? And so there's some type of trust there. So I thought that was, it would be a good idea. But then of course, who's going to go ahead and work for free also, But anyway, you mentioned you were an elementary teacher for several years, and now you're an assistant principal at the academy. Let me ask you this, and I don't know if you can really tell just because the change of jobs that you have, but do you feel there's more bullying taking place in elementary schools versus the middle or high schools? And if so, I mean, why do you think that is?
I don't think so. It just seems like little kids can let things go easier and blow things off. Junior high, senior high girls, especially, someone makes fun of their hair or their weight or their clothes. They just can't get over it. It just keeps coming back. I mean, I have feuds going on at school between girls that have been going on for several years. They just don't seem to be able to let things go. Little kids, the next day, they forgot all about it. They're back playing together and they're best friends. So the elementary, it happens, but it's not to the depth of the junior, senior high level.
There's, not to get off on a different subject, but I was just looking, and I mentioned this on maybe 2 or 3 the previous podcast, and since you're a principal, maybe you can sort of share some light on this. There is a statistic out where 85% of all bullying, there's no intervention, and this is, of course, this is on a national level, and after all the research I've done, I feel that this is pertaining where parents aren't getting involved like they used to. Teachers, principals, superintendents aren't stepping in, obviously, because there's no intervention. But my question is this: if this is true, and there's no one intervening, why are they not intervening or stepping in?
Well, I see it a lot at school, especially in the junior, senior high level. Nobody wants to be a snitch. They'll know exactly what happened. They will have witnessed it. They know who was involved and what it was about, but they won't tell me to save their soul. They do not want to be known as a snitch. That's the cardinal sin in junior, senior high. I think that's the number one reason. And they don't want to tell their parents either. Yeah. Parents, these days both parents have to work to support the family. Parents are overworked. They just don't have the time, and I don't mean that in a bad way. They work. They're tired in the evenings. They just don't have the time to be as involved as my mother was in my life, because she was home all the time.
Right. There's a couple things that I actually share on or talk on in the school assemblies. Of course, my school assemblies, like I mentioned, I think when I was talking to you before, is, of course, they're different between elementary and high schools. But I mentioned to the schools is that the only way that that bullying is going to stop is that if the kids take action. And what I mean by that is that if they see somebody getting bullied, no matter how big they are, no matter how mean they are, all they have to do is just go up to that person and say, stop it, and they walk away. Right. And because bullies hate when when there's more people involved. And then after you do that, then that's when you go, tell an adult, of course. And you're right. It just seems like the kids just refuse to snitch, and it's just something that they have to get over. And then, and I know that, some, kids don't want to tell their parents because they know their parents. They know that they would just they just would be livid and cause a scene, embarrass them even worse, and make the whole situation worse. You know what I mean?
And some are afraid of retaliation, that they'll get beat up even worse.
Right. I want to talk real quickly. Of course, there's different types of bullying that occur. Of course, there's the verbal bullying, the name calling and teasing. There's the physical bullying where, there's, hitting and slapping and elbowing and shoving and all that. The next kind of bullying I'm actually just came across maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago was the kind of bullying that's actually most emotionally damaging, I guess, where the victims experience more depression and anxiety. And this kind of bullying is the kind of bullying that sticks around even in adulthood. And it's called more like have you ever heard of social alienation bullying, where it's a type of bullying where you hurt someone's reputation, relationship by spreading rumors, gestures, jokes, pranks, embarrassing them. Are you familiar with that?
I've heard it called that, but I have experienced that at school, yes.
Yeah, and then, of course, we got the cyberbullying. The years you have been a teacher and assistant principal, what kind of bullying did you either see the most of or heard about the most in your school? Was it verbal? Was it physical? Was it social alienation? Was it cyberbullying? Well, of course, it wasn't cyberbullying, I don't think, but which kind of bullying did you see the most of?
It's probably a toss-up between the verbal and the social alienation, posting things on Facebook, embarrassing things about someone, embarrassing pictures.
Right.
Probably pretty equal there between the two. I have an occasional fight, but that's not a really big problem where I'm at.
Right. Do you think there's more problems with bullying with the boys or the girls?
For me, it's girls. For me, it's girls. The boys, they'll just slug each other and it's over.
Yeah.
But as I said before, the girls, they carry the grudges, I'll get you back kind of attitude.
Well,
the boys get over it pretty quickly.
Let me ask you this. Do you, I know this is probably a question, but why do you think bullying happens?
That's a good question. I think the kids are wanting attention. I don't know if they're not getting enough attention at home, and they want to make themselves famous at school by being the bully or the bad guy or the bad girl. They just want people to fear them. Right. They get a kick out of putting someone else down, therefore raising themselves up in their eyes.
Right. So, is there anything that the school can do? You guys have counselors there. Is there anything, because that's true, because in essence, the reason that bullying takes place is because kids have low self-esteem. Right. And so they're going to go ahead and pick on somebody else. But then what happens is that the kids that get bullied, the statistics show that they're going to have a tendency to bully themselves. Does that make sense?
Right. Yeah.
So, how is there anything that the schools can do, you think, that can probably, help build their self-esteem, or, I'm just throwing that out there.
We have a character education class that we have a teacher that teaches that and talks a lot about self-esteem. You're important. Everybody's different, but we all have special qualities. We have a counselor, like you said. We have the October where we concentrate on bullying for the month and have lots of discussions and so forth about it. Several of our teachers try to build a relationship with the kids so that they feel like they have someone they can trust to talk to. Mm-hmm. That's not always me because I'm the disciplinarian. But I try to be a mediator. I try to bring the two parties into my office and discuss the issue and let them have a free, non-consequent place where they can just let it all out, tell them how you feel, right, and help them solve their problems. And we all, as a staff, try to make the kids feel that they're important and they're special and they have a future, and we're there to help them. Right. I'm very proud of our staff. We do a good job at that.
Let me ask you this. I mentioned this on another podcast, I was actually in D.C. Playing at a church, and the music director was also a teacher at one of the bigger schools. And I don't know if he was just not telling me the truth, but we were talking about bullying. He goes, "Oh, we don't have bullying hardly at all in our school. And our school is, I forgot what the size was. And I'm thinking, you got to be kidding me. And I said, why does your school don't have any bullying hardly? And then our school is just, I don't know if you know this, Marla, but West Virginia is number 3 or number 5 with the most bullying incidents in the country.
Really?
And and we're more of a rural area, and where kids don't have anything to do, and it's just one of those type of situations. But anyway, getting back to the situation with this guy in D.C., and you can sort of confirm if this is true. He says that his school district has the funds to go ahead and to train, to help the whole situation with bullying, from addiction to bullying, and that's why they don't have the bullying. So if schools had the money, do you feel that would really help reduce the amount of bullying that takes place?
It definitely could help to have more trained staff that could just deal with those issues and have no other responsibilities. And they could become an even closer person that the kids could confide in. I mean, we all try to do it as much as we can, but we all have full-time jobs that we have to take care of as well.
Right.
So if we had some, 8 or 10 people just hired for that sole purpose, I think it could make a real difference.
Right. Let me ask you this. You, with the position that you're in, what are some of the effects of bullying with kids? I mean, when somebody gets bullied, I mean, what kind of effects do they have? I mean, it could be psychological, it could be a mental health effect, social effects, academic effects. What kind of effects does bullying have on the kids?
Well, they tend to go one of two ways. Either they withdraw, become depressed, usually get physically sick, are absent a lot, kind of fade into the background type of person. They alienate all their friends. They don't want to be with their family. Or they go the other way. They get violent, and they're always in fights, and they've got a big mouth, and you can always hear them coming down the hall because they're saying something inappropriate to someone else. Right. It seems to go one way or the other. And, the most extreme case is suicide.
Yeah. I think, there's a couple of things I want to mention, about the different effects of bullying. You mentioned, more of the psychological mental health effects, where you have higher rates of depression, which leads into suicides. Going back to the mass shootings, these are kids. They're saying these are kids that have tried to be accepted in different groups and have been rejected over and over and over and over. And then what happens is that they'll go ahead and just, like you said, they'll just sort of be quiet to themselves, and then they would just explode. And I just think that's, if there's somehow that we could, counsel them and find out, because you really never know. And what I was leading up to is that I was actually, and I think I might have mentioned this when I did a concert at your church where there was a 9-year-old boy that committed suicide, and I just can't imagine a 9-year-old boy to commit suicide. And this boy was the kind of guy that, I mean, he got bullied, but he also fought back, and I'm just baffled on how somebody can take their life at that young of age.
Me too. I don't understand that. You would think a parent would have picked up on something before it got to that point with that young of a child.
Kids
are so cruel. I mean, they know just how to get each other right in the heart. They really are very good at that.
So let me ask you this. So how can a parent keep a handle on the bullying or keep a handle on their kids? What can they do at home that will go ahead and just help the whole situation with bullying? Either not even just with bullying. I mean, you're talking about drugs, you're talking about alcohol. Mm-hmm. What do they need to do as parents to get a better handle on things?
Well, one thing that my parents always did, and one thing that my husband and I always did, is we always had dinner as a family every night until the boys really got involved in ball in high school. But we always had dinner together, and that was our time to just kind of talk about our day, whether it was 6 o'clock or 9 o'clock. We waited till everyone could come and eat together. And that was our family time for the day because we were all busy. Now, as the kids got older, that became fewer in frequency, but it was just a time that we could talk. I always kept in close communication with their teachers. I always knew exactly what their grades were. Of course, being a teacher, that was important to me, the school. Just being involved in their lives. I mean, we went to all of our kids' games. There wasn't anything that our kids did that one of us wasn't there. We were just, and we both worked. We were constantly involved with our kids. We knew where they were, who they were with, what they were doing. And when you know your kid that well, it doesn't take long to figure out when something's wrong.
So do you feel that the kids that bully comes from the home, from the parents?
I've got to put some of the blame there. And maybe not all of it, but I do have to put some of the blame there. I mean, it's hard to sit down with your kids at night when you've worked all day and you're tired, or go to their ball games. You know, it's taxing on you. It's not what you want to do, but you've got to put your kids first.
Right. You know, it seems like I've been getting a lot of messages, you know, from parents that are just beside themselves and not knowing what to do because nothing's happening. You know, their kids are getting bullied and they've talked with the, you know, the teacher and everything else. But what advice would you give parents, I guess, when their kids are getting bullied and nobody at the school is doing anything about it? Now, I know there has to be some type of policy or, you know, a guideline on what to do when kids get bullied. Knowing that, what kind of advice would you give a parent if nothing is being done?
Well, but first make sure that the kids are telling us what's going on. Because a lot of times parents will come to me and say, this is happening to my child, and I had no clue because the child had not talked to me. So that's number one. If they feel they're not getting there, I would just advise moving up the chain of command to the principal, to the superintendent. If you're not getting any response there, you could find out who this child is and maybe contact their parents. I've had parents who, I don't do it at school, but on their own, have contacted the other child's parents and tried to work it out with two sets of parents and the children there, and try to sit down and talk about what's going on and get it stopped that way. And I've had other parents that have just gone to the police and got the police involved. That's usually the extreme cases. But
is that effective, you think? You go to the police? Yeah, going to the police.
They probably aren't going to do anything unless it's got physical. If there's fighting going on, if your child's being hurt, beat up, punched, there's things that you can do.
Right.
If it's all verbal or on social media, there's not a whole lot they can do. No.
Right. You know, what do you think about this? This was a while back ago, and I think it was in Michigan. And I don't know if it was just a school district. I don't know if it was just a small city, but they were going to implement. I don't know if they actually implemented it or they were going to, or if they have already. Where if the kid would bully somebody, then there would be a fine against the parents, an actual fine.
Oh,
what do you think about that?
Well, I like that idea. But in my particular school, we can't hardly get school fees out of people, let alone fines. We're in a 100% free lunch district,
right? Which
means most of our parents, not all, but most of our parents are at the poverty level. So getting money out of them, they just wouldn't pay it. They just flat out wouldn't pay it. Unless we threaten to expel their child or something.
See, and I don't know really the details if the school would actually fine them or if it's actually the city, police officers and stuff,
Oh, Now, if it was a legal issue, that would be different.
Well, do you think that would be
but I don't,
more effective, you think?
Yeah. Because I know I also do truancy, and when I start talking about we're getting to the point where you're going to have to go to court, appear before the judge, that usually gets their attention. Because they'll have records,
right.
And they know when they go to court that record's going to get pulled up. So that helps. Yeah, that would make a big difference.
Let me ask you this. I think, in the last 5 years, in your opinion, do you feel that bullying has gotten worse since you've, of course, you being a teacher or principal? And if so, I mean, why have this got worse?
Do you mean overall or in my school?
No, overall, or or in your school. I think how many kids do you have in your school?
212 this year.
Okay. Well, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I know there's bullying in all the schools, but anyway, no, overall, in the last 5 years, do you feel that bullying has gotten worse?
I think it's been made more aware. People are more aware of it and more in tune to the signs, which maybe makes it seem like it's worse. But I think that part of it is good. Parents are more tuned in to what they should be looking for. I don't really think I could say it's worse. I just think it's more out in the open, and we know more about it now than we did. Of course, the Facebook and the social media has made it 10 times worse than it was before Facebook.
Yeah, and that's what's happening now, is that the peaks is because of the cyberbullying that's taken place. Right.
Right.
So, but if you were a parent, in regards to cyberbullying, what would you do to protect your child from being cyberbullied?
Well, one of the things we did when the kids were little is we put the computer out in the living room. So nobody got on a computer that we couldn't see the screen. There was no computer back in the bedroom.
That's nice.
And we put a password on it. So even when they were on it, they had to ask us to type in the password. We didn't give them the password. We typed it in. And then they would do what they needed to do. If there was a person that was bothering him, we would block those people. We didn't do this because we didn't have that problem, but advice might be to take the phone at night. I have some parents who, when the kids go to bed at night, they take their phones and lock them up so that they're not on them during the night when they can't supervise that.
Okay, so you just have like time limits and...
Yeah. I have one family that they only get their phones from 8 in the morning to 8 at night. And mom and dad have it the other 12 hours of the day.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good. Let me ask you this. Does most counties, I'm not for sure if you know this, but does most counties or even the state offer like any classes or assistance to the teachers or the principals to help fight against bullying? Do you know?
Not really that I'm aware of. I'm sure there are workshops. I've taken some workshops, one-day things, weekend things. Those are offered periodically. I don't think that police or sheriff or anyone has anything specifically designed to that I'm aware of.
Okay. Well, Marla, if you don't mind, I want to go ahead and take just a few minutes and recognize the sponsors and also let the listeners know how they can help support the Bully Resistance Show. That's next. The Bully Resistance Show is brought to you by Nathan Alfred Insurance, an independent insurance agency located in Vienna, West Virginia. They specialize in auto, home, life, and business insurance. What makes this agency unique is the ability to shop the market for you. The Bully Resistance Show is also brought to you by Berkshire Hathaway Home Services Real Estate Center as a part of their community outreach. They truly believe that selling houses is important, but helping make our community a better place to live is even more important. The Bully Resistance Show is also brought to you by Valley Chapel United Methodist Church and United Methodist Church located in Fairmont, West Virginia. Worshiping, praying, and living the Word of God as a family. Also want to thank Bobby and Michelle Jones, Jeff Belt, Pamela Sayre, Rick Modisett, Connie Pample, Jerry and Karen Gartrell, Crossroads Church. You can help us fight bullying in the public schools and help support the Bully Resistance Show with David Wells. For more information, go to www.davebond.org. That's www.davebond.org. Well, thanks for tuning back in to the Resistance Show with David Wells. My name is David Wells, and we've been talking to Marla Sparks, who was actually a principal in the Dayton, Ohio school district, where she has been a teacher for well over 30 years. Hey, Marla, were you bullied at all in school?
I was made fun of a little bit for my weight, but I never looked at it as people being mean. That's just what we did.
Okay. And how about your kids? Have they experienced that at all?
I feel like my oldest, he was pretty heavy in high school. He was over 200 pounds. Okay. I didn't really find out till after he got out of school that he experienced quite a bit of humiliation because of that.
Oh, okay.
But he was, at the same time, looked up to. He was valedictorian and in the marching band on the drum line, which was prestigious. So I don't know, it went both ways.
Okay. Marla, what I want to do now is sort of to end up the interview. I want to ask you some really either one word answers, or you can elaborate all you want. But this is what I call the super questions. And so anyway, starting at that, the first question is this: what's one word that best describes you?
I think I would say consistent. At least I try to be.
Consistency?
Yeah, especially my discipline.
Okay. Well, let me ask you this. What is one of your biggest pet peeves? Now, this could be at school. This could be at home with your husband and kids.
Being disrespectful to me.
Well, gosh, yeah. I wouldn't want to do that. What natural gift would you most like to possess?
Wisdom. I ask for wisdom every morning. Wisdom? Yes, wisdom.
You know what? You really have to in school, because every problem is different and different people and everything else. But yeah, I would say so. Who is your favorite band?
I like several Christian bands, but Mercy Me, I think, would be one of my favorites.
Oh, let me ask you this: have you, not to get on a tangent, have you seen the movie I Can Only Imagine?
Yes, it was great.
Was it good?
Yes, excellent movie. I would highly recommend it.
Okay. Next question. What profession other than your own would you like to attempt?
This sounds kind of silly. I've always wanted to be a wedding planner. I love weddings. I love planning parties.
Oh my gosh.
That's something I would like to do.
You know, I used to go ahead and play at a lot of weddings when I first started. And this was actually during the college years. And I hated it. I mean, of course, a lot of them, they want the classical, the Baroque style of, the entrance and everything else. And it was fine, but, it was just, you just stay away from the bride,
Not for you, huh?
Right. Let me ask you this. What would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
Good job.
Good job. Awesome. Okay, on a scale to 1 to 10, how weird does your family think you are?
Probably about a 6, I would say.
A 6?
Yeah.
Okay, let me see. Tell me something true that almost nobody agrees with you on.
Well, probably won't be very popular, but I believe in corporal punishment. Not beating, not hurting. Corporal punishment, when it's needed, at home and at school, does wonders. When I first started teaching, I could paddle children, which I did very rarely, but it usually only took 1 or 2 times, and the whole class got the idea, and I didn't have any problems the rest of the year.
Oh my gosh! Now this is a totally different podcast. We can talk about that all day long.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sure I'm going to be getting some emails now.
Oh, yeah.
Well, that's about all that we have for the Bully Resistance Show with David Wells. Before we go, I just want to thank the sponsors again for supporting the Bully Resistance Show. Also, I want to encourage all our listeners to go on iTunes and subscribe to the show. Of course, that's going to help with our ratings. And talking about ratings, if you can rate us at 5 and may also leave a comment, that's going to help us build up with more of exposure and help us to make bullying more aware to the public. But anyway, Marla, I want to thank you for being on the show, and hopefully it didn't stress you out too much, but you did phenomenal.
Well, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for listening to the Bully Resistance Show.